few weeks ago, and on the night before my daughter's wedding, mother and daughters cried our eyes out. Why? Change can be daunting, and the anxiety that comes with change can be distressing. And humans are therefore quite resistant and, about change because, breaking away from norms or breaking away from habits can be distressing. And change, unfortunately, is a fact of life. And you can embrace it, and it is not really a choice. Some change can happen overnight, some can evolve over time. Sustainability exactly happened over the last 2 decades. It has evolved from a good to have to today become a global mainstream agenda on both political and business arena. In 2014, when I, share my card as carrying the title of Chief Sustainability Officer, at that time, people's reaction was like, oh, interesting. What is this title? What do you really do? But today, the reaction are quite different. Some ask me, it's like, oh, my son actually, is studying environmental management, and he wants to be part of the climate action to save the world. And this is really a very welcome change, because our world is not sustainable. And the temperature is rising too fast and too much. And if you remember that the hottest 5 years all occurred over the last 7 years. And indeed, we need sustainability, professional, skilled, and passionate people to come to join this profession. I'm really glad that I started my journey early in 1995. And at that time, why I joined the profession was actually the turning point was because I became a mother of 2 in mid-90s. And at that time, sustainability was not quite the agenda. And being a mother, of course, I naturally become more concerned about the climate change, the impact, food security, anything that impacts the future of my children or my grandchildren. Definitely, that was really the key drivers for me to change, and the guilt and also eco-consciousness and the care and the concern about the future. So today, the world is in a climate emergency. And as you know that cities account for only 2% of the landmass on Earth, but is responsible for 2/3 of energy consumption and 70% of greenhouse gas emission. Cities and buildings are responsible for 36% of energy consumption and 40% of greenhouse gas emission. And sadly, after Paris Agreement, we haven't seen, the drop of global carbon emissions over these past 5-6 years. So what should we do? Climate threats are really affecting everyone and everywhere. And this was taken in 2015 in Singapore. Singapore being a garden city blessed with, clean and green environment and high green coverage, always enjoy, clean air and all that. But every year, we are subject to the impact of haze due to the bushfire in the region. And 2013 and 2015, it was the worst haze on record. And I still remember that I was driving home after work, and the visibility became so bad that I could hardly drive, more than 20 kilometers because I couldn't see the cars in front. It was really very frightening. And breathing was so suffocating because I feel like I was smoking rather than breathing. So the question is, do we have solutions? And what does smart city means, And definitely, the answer is yes. There are smart and sustainable and green building solutions and technology that can help us to reduce carbon footprint. And even right from the beginning, we can tap, on technologies and AI to simulate, the projects. And how do we orientate it? How do we maximize natural ventilation? And how do we reduce heat gain? We can do it. There are solutions. And even through greening, This is actually, our pride and joy, one of the largest vertical garden in the world that made it to the Guinness record. And based on a study over 1 year, this green wall helped to bring down temperature, cool the internal space by up to 3 degrees Celsius. And that means it will reduce the use of air conditioning. And we can also weave in technology and solutions into architecture. And this wavy canopy has a lot of wonders behind it. It actually maximizes the airflow and natural resources and breeze under it without using air conditioning. And it also embraced a very extensive installation of solar energy and solar panel, and plus a rainwater harvesting system. And these two are actually a net zero building. And what we feel is we need to educate the public what exactly is net zero building. And it actually, both of them are like Green Gallery at the Singapore Botanic Gardens. The other one is a Sustainability Academy. Both have high usage of sustainable building materials, and both actually covered with solar panel on the rooftop. And since their opening, we only power the operations using solar energy. Then the third enabler is actually about people. Do you know that actually people spend about 90% indoor, whether at home, at work, or, in F&B outlets, or, anywhere, entertainment, theater, and all that. So what we feel is people are most important in driving change, because how you use the spaces have an impact on the overall building performance and carbon footprint of our building in our cities. And what we feel is like we need to engage a lot more ambassadors, not just sustainability professionals, not just the environmentalists or the scientists. People can drive change on the ground, and people can really make a difference. Over the last few years, I have really embraced a lot of ground movement and established a Women for Green network and also the Youth for Climate network, because what we feel is women and children and youth are really very effective ambassadors, can drive change. And this little boy is a 3.5 years old Nathaniel Ng. He was actually our youngest winner from our storytelling competition last year. When we were during the lockdown, the kids are all not going to school, so we actually launched this storytelling. And he is so compelling in his storytelling. And his last line, I can remember, fondly, that he said, "I'm small, but I can make a difference," with that energy and conviction. And as adults, we can all make a difference too. We all know that we shouldn't be using too much air conditioning. We know that we shouldn't be shopping too much or throwing away too much garbage. But knowing is one thing, acting is another. For businesses, we are under a lot of scrutiny now. Actually, from the beginning of millennium, we already seen a lot of new benchmark, ESG, sustainability standards and frameworks coming our way. And whether you like it or not, businesses' performance in ESG, environment, social, and governance, are being tracked because we are operating in a very transparent world. You like it or not, they can track you, whether it's regulator, investors, and consumers. So the best way to do it, there is a choice. Change or be changed. Investors can drop from their investment, and consumers can choose not to buy your product. So change is really not a choice, but an imperative to survive. So what do we do next? We were very, very gear up for Paris Agreement. During 2014, we actually restructured our organization, putting a lot of emphasis to sustainability, embrace it into the businesses and into our business operations and strategy. And I was very fortunate to have the very good support from my boss, the late managing director of CDL. And he has been really the strongest supporter from the beginning when I joined the industry, with very little experience about the industry. And he believe and share the same commitment, and together we actually started a 20 years journey for our company and adopting the ethos of conserving as we construct. And that has actually helped us transform the business model and also create impact on the built environment and the industry in Singapore. So 2014, we are all geared up for, after Paris Agreement, there are a lot of big plans that we want to do. But change came upon me again in 2015. The life actually took a turn. My direct boss, he just passed on suddenly without any warning. So that was November 2015, just before COP21. And I was really shaken, sad, and worried, and it's like, what am I supposed to do without my strongest support? So I really need to, find way to regain the confidence and regain the energy. So a family holiday at the end of, the year 2015 really helped me to put me back on the path of healing. And in Finland, I was very fortunate. I still remember the feeling of like seeing this, beautiful northern light dancing above the frozen lake, pitch dark frozen lake with the dancing light. It actually reminded me that how beautiful, nature is, and reminded me about my love for nature and my purpose of my sustainability journey. I ushered in 2016 with a new sense of energy and also a new sense of commitment that we need to charge. And over the few years, we really, did a lot, and then we actually helped the companies to achieve top rating in the leading sustainability rankings and all. But last year, like all others in the world, the world almost came to a halt, and all our activities were put on hold. But the doors are closed, windows are open. We did a lot of virtual events and all that. But we did see something, the silver lining actually shone through the pandemic last year for sustainability. And we have seen the rapid growth of ESG funds, which have actually tripled, and even sustainability bond, social bond, green bonds have doubled in the volume versus the year before. So now we are not just talking about political regulations, and we're not just talking about business. We need more champions on the ground as well, and more change makers, because that makes a difference. And what we are hoping to have is to enroll more people to drive change on the ground. What we need is you need not to be scientists or an environmentalist. We need champions that have the passion, have the strong sense of commitment, hope, and love, just like this mother. When you have hope and the sense of commitment, nothing is too heavy on your shoulder. And for our future, I'm sure you can join us to save the future. And change is not a choice. Thank you.